Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the 3D Critic channel. Today I'm going to give you guys my performance review on the Way of Wade All City 13 Encores. This is the Encore edition to the original All City 13s, which I reviewed quite a bit back, which was a really good shoe overall. I really liked the traction. Cushioning was very nice and light. Materials looked very nice, as well as the overall design with pretty solid lockdown and really good support to boot. And when it came to the Encore version, I was very curious to see what some changes they made when it comes to the overall design of the shoe, and a couple of other changes when it comes to the overall cushioning itself, which I was very curious to find out for myself. If you guys are interested, they are available in a few colorways right now on Way of Wade's website, and they are going on sale for $10 off. Original retail is $150, where right now you can get for a few colorways at $140. This pair I specifically got from Amazon, and it is the only way to get this colorway when it comes to this shoe itself. So if you want this colorway, they are available right now on Amazon, but if you want any other colorways, they are available on Way of Wade's website right now, and I will leave both links down below in the description box. Now for the fit, they fit exactly the same as the original All City 13s, so whatever you typically wore in the All City 13s, you should be fine in the All City 13 Encores, where the width is nice and conformed and it is very nice and snug. However, the length of the shoe does run a little long, so be mindful of that when it comes to vertical stops and things like that. So I would go true to size in that case. For narrow footers, you should be fine going down a half size, and for wide footers, you should be okay going true to size. But if you have a really wide foot, I would go up a half size because of the snugness that you're going to feel in the width itself. Now, the first difference is the outsole itself, where in the Encores, you get a full-length rubber made out of tough rubber with the same herringbone pods that you get that are segmented throughout the forefoot itself, with a topographical pattern that you get here in the heel, compared to the originals where it had GCU rubber in the heel with the same herringbone pattern that you get in the forefoot. When it comes to how it grips, it actually feels very similar to the originals, especially in the forefoot. However, you do need to rubber them in, because at first you do start to slide around a little bit at first, but once you warm it up, it actually grips very similarly here in the forefoot, where lateral movements feel really good and really sticky going side to side, and with hard stops it felt really good when it came to stopping on a dime, and you also get a really nice launch off of your first step. But the main difference lies in the back half of the shoe. With the regular rubber, you get a more consistent grip profile from top to bottom, whereas in the original version, I did have a little bit of slip when it came to the GCU rubber, and sometimes it could be a little bit more grippy than it used to be, and it could also like drift when it came down to the consistency that I got in the originals. But in the Encores, you get a little bit more consistency with the full length rubber that you get in the Encores itself. So that is like the only difference when it came down to it. As far as dust pickup is concerned, it is pretty much the same. You do get some decent dust pickup every now and then, but it is fairly easy to wipe off. So as long as you keep up with your wipes, it is really good and fairly consistent when it comes to a clean and dusty court as far as the performance is concerned. The durability is very similar to the originals, where the herringbone is basically balding out the micro gritting texture that you get initially. So when it comes to that, it's just balding out the micro gritted texture itself with a little bit of fraying, especially here around the forefoot itself. So it's fine here in the forefoot, and the same can be said with the rubber here in the heel, with some bald spots here on the edges of the outsole itself, but the grooves themselves are pretty chunky, and I'm not experiencing any fraying from the white rubber as well as the herringbone rubber itself. So when it comes to indoor use, you're going to be more than fine, as well as playing outdoors. You should be good to go on all fronts when it comes to the durability and the toughness of the rubber itself. So all in all, they grip exactly the same as the originals, but you do get a little bit more consistency from top to bottom of the outsole when it comes to the grip that you get, as well as the durability and dust pickup. Now, another change that the Encore version went through is the cushioning setup itself. On the medial side of the shoe, it states that it has a polymer core drive system, which is basically a full-length boom midsole, along with a really stiff plastic shank that is full length and sandwiched in between the midsole itself. When it comes down to it, it actually has a really similar responsive feel, which is very responsive at the end of the day. And basically with the sandwich shank that you get, it actually gives you a really nice bouncy bouncy feel compared to the originals, where I did have a very light, airy feel, and it was very easy to get up off the ground when it came to it. But this has a little bit more spring under you, so you're going to get a little more bounce on your step. So when it comes to the forefoot cushioning, it feels the same in many respects, but at the same time, not really. Especially with the bounce, you do get a little bit more bounce in the Encores compared to the originals, where you do get a little bit more responsiveness and airiness when it comes to how lively I felt in the original All City 13s. In the heel, it is very comfortable and very forgiving, and it has a nice sculpted shape in the heel, so you do have a pretty nice compression when it comes to the boom midsole itself. So very nice and forgiving, and has very nice impact protection as well when it came to heel strikes. So very comparable to the originals in that respect. As far as fluidity goes, they are very fluid at the end of the day, but at first they did feel a little bit stiff, so I did have to break in the shank that is sandwiched in the midsole itself to give it a nice fluid feel. But once you do that, it is very nice and fluid and very similar to the original. So you do have a nice heel to toe transition, and with the snap that you get from the shank, it gives you a really nice snappy feel as well. So you're able to get up to speed very quickly in these, just like the originals. So at the end of the day, they are very similar when it comes to how it feels under your foot, but you do get a different feel when it comes to the responsiveness. They are responsive when it comes to the Encores, but I did like the responsiveness more in the originals, and you get a more lively feel, but you do get a little bit more bounce in the Encores. But overall, the feel of the shoe is very nice, aside from the forefoot cushioning and a couple of aspects in my opinion. Now, the materials are another thing that went through a little change compared to the originals, and as you look closely into the materials themselves, you are getting this engineered mesh material with some weaves on the top of the mesh material itself, with some synthetic fuse overlays here around the toe box. And as you move into the midfoot, you're going to get this glossy leather Velcro strap that wraps all the way into the medial side of the shoe with more Velcro exposed. And as you look into the medial side a little more, you get this exposed engineered mesh with some more textile weave, more synthetic leather wrapped around the lace line itself, also on the other side of the shoe as well, and it wraps all the way into the heel. And you are going to get some exposed mesh padding on the heel tab as well. The tongue itself is a decently ventilated tongue with some decent padding on the top of the tongue, and you are going to get some average padding around the ankle collar as well as in the heel. So very comfortable, especially here in the forefoot. You are going to get some nice flexibility here in the forefoot, and it was very easy to break in, so I didn't have any issues with that. And you also get some nice comfortability with the Velcro strap that is very adjustable, so you don't have to tighten it up as you would like. So it is all right when it comes down to the comfort here. And it is the same throughout the lace line itself. However, in the top, if you tighten these too much, you are going to experience some discomfort, and it's going to start pinching around your ankle. So be mindful when it comes to tying the laces up. Don't tie them up too tight, because they will cause some discomfort. But for the most part, it's overall pretty comfortable in the midfoot. Just be mindful to adjust the laces accordingly. And the padding around the ankle collar is pretty average. Didn't have any issues with it. And the same goes for the heel padding as well. As far as the design of the shoe, I really like it. It is a little bit more robust compared to the regular All City 13s. I really do like this strap that you get here in the midfoot, with the stitching that you get with the signature, as well as a little bit more graphics here, and the ventilated holes that you get throughout the strap itself. Also like the stitching that you get around the materials themselves that are continuous throughout the shoe itself. And this doesn't have that giant moon crater shape, so it is a lot more simplistic here in the heel with this leather. So beefy at the same time, but a lot more simplistic at the end of the day with the overall design. So pretty nice at the end of the day. So as far as materials go, they feel exactly the same as the originals, as long as you make the proper adjustments. That way you won't feel any discomfort around the shoe itself. And the overall design is beefier, but at the same time, a lot simpler compared to the originals. Now, with the changes in the material, you are going to expect a little bit of differences when it comes to the overall lockdown itself, which is pretty good in the originals. However, in the Encores, it does perform a little bit better in some areas. As you look closely into the forefoot especially, because of the fit, the width is pretty nice and conformed, so you're going to have a nice snug feel. However, when it comes to the length of the shoe, it does run a little long when you go true to size. So when it comes to vertical movements, when you are trying to stop on the down, you will slide a little bit forward. But when it comes to the width, it is a little bit of an improvement because of this midfoot strap here that you get here along the beginning of the lace line itself. So you're going to have a pretty nice wrap, and you also get these cables to cinch the forefoot a little bit more, so you're going to have a nice tight seal when it comes to the forefoot section of the shoe, so it improves the forefoot. As well as in the midfoot, you are going to get these cables that stretch all the way down to the midsole itself, and it's on both sides of the lace line itself, so you're going to have a nice cinch down feel when it comes to the lockdown of the lacing system. And you also get a nice gusseted tongue when it comes to the overall wrap that you're going to feel in the midfoot, so you're going to have a nice wrap here in the midfoot from the top all the way into the bottom of the shoe. In the heel, though, there is very little sculpting, and the padding is quite minimal, so you are going to experience some heel slippage here or there, but for the most part, it does a decent job when it comes to containing the heel itself. But when it comes to the forefoot and the midfoot, it is a very nice slight improvement compared to the originals, but when it comes to the back half, especially for the heel lockdown, it is basically the same. So overall, to me, the Encores do a little bit more of a better job when it comes to the forefoot and midfoot lockdown itself, but when it comes to the heel lockdown, you are going to get a similar experience whether it is in the original or the Encore itself. And lastly, for the support in the Encores, it's basically the same shoe compared to the originals, but with the difference when it comes to the overall design of the cushioning, it does alter the overall feel that you get for the support itself. When it comes to the lateral support, it's basically a carryover from the originals, where you do get the same outsole itself, and as a result, you are going to get the same protruding outrigger here in the forefoot with two separate outriggers here on the furthest point of the outsole itself and a little bit forward here on the medial side. And you also get this huge strap as well as the fuse overlay to give you some nice containment, and you do get a cradled feel within the midsole itself. And you're also going to get this huge Pro Bar lock stabilizer here in the forefoot as well as in the midfoot, so you're going to get some nice containment here in the forefoot as well as in the midfoot to give you some nice containment and rigidity. In the back half, the Moon Crater GCU rubber that you're going to get is not in the back, but you do get a more basic, slimmer type feel with an internal heel counter, which gives you some pretty nice support when it comes to the back half of the shoe itself. So when it comes to the lateral support, it's basically the same with a little bit more rigidity here in the forefoot as well as in the midfoot. For the torsional rigidity with the Pro Bar lock that you get, as well as the sandwiched shank that you get in the midsole itself, you are going to get some pretty stiff feel when it comes to the overall flex. You do get a little bit of flexibility in the forefoot so that it doesn't feel too stiff, but when it comes to the torsional rigidity and its ability to contort, it is quite hard to contort compared to the originals where it was a little bit easier to contort. So as far as the balance of the shoe is concerned, it is nice and stable and rigid at the same time. The base of the shoe is exactly the same as the original, so you're going to have a nice flat base here in the forefoot. It does get slimmer in the heel, but it does generally stay flat for the most part with some rounded edges. So you're going to have a nice flat base that is a little slimmer compared to the forefoot where it is nice, wide, and flat. So when it comes to the overall stability of the outsole itself, it is pretty much the same. So all in all, to me, the Encore is basically a more supportive version to the originals, where you do get a little bit more reinforcement when it comes to the lateral support that you get throughout the shoe itself, as well as the overall torsional rigidity that you're going to get from the shank itself, with it being full length compared to the originals where it's just focused on the forefoot itself, making the Encore a lot more stable from front to back when it comes to the overall balance that you're going to get in the shoe. But when it comes to the balance of the outsole itself, it's basically exactly the same. So at the end of the day, support is a little bit more rigid compared to the originals, but it carries the same features when it comes to the stability that you're going to get, but more balanced out when you get the Encores. So to sum it up for you guys, the Encores is basically a stiffer version of the originals themselves. The traction basically carries over, but it is more consistent from front to back. The cushioning is a little bit more stiffer and a little bit longer to break in, but you do get a similar feel and you get more bounce. Materials are roughly the same, but it does go in a little bit different direction when it comes to how it is done when it comes to the lockdown. And the support is basically a lot more supportive when it comes to the lateral support that you get, as well as the overall stability that you're going to get and balance of the shoe itself. So it's basically a beefier version of the original All City 13s. But when it comes to comparing the two, I do like the All City 13s, the original, a little bit more. because it is a lot more lively under your foot, and it does feel a little lighter compared to these where they do feel a little bit heavier from an overall feel. But if you do want a more supportive version of the All City 13s, the Encores is a very solid option because you get more stability from front to back compared to the originals where all the support is basically in the front half of the shoe with the back half being a little bit exposed. And they are relatively cheaper too. I've seen colorways that are going for less than $100. So if you are on a budget and you want similar performance to the Encores, the All City 13s are a very solid option. But if you want a beefier version of the original All City 13s, the All City 13 Encores is a very solid choice and a nice supportive suitor compared to the original version themselves. Thank you guys for watching this video. This has been my performance review on the All City 13 Encores. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and comment down below on which shoe you would rather prefer, the 13 Encores or the original 13s. I'd like to know your thoughts as to why you would choose which one or the other. To me, I do like the originals a little bit more than the Encores, but that's just my personal favorites. I'd like to know your thoughts on that, as well as any other questions that you might have for me as well. If you'd like to stay up to date with future videos that I'll be posting, hit the subscribe button down below. It'll greatly support the channel as well. And if you do want to see my review of the original All City 13s, I will leave that on the corner of the screen right here. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, all of that information will be in the description box below. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your day. I hope this was beneficial to you guys. And until next time, keep shooting.